Okay, back here on the Crazy Dad Camaro. Let's start into the next part of this project here. When I bought the car, the guy that sold it to me had gotten a new key lock ignition cylinder tumbler here to go in the thing, and the old one's kind of busted up and wasn't turning well, and figured, well, okay, that's probably what it's all about, and I think that's the reason he got it. But watching some YouTube videos here, I found out something else that could be part of our problem. So right here is a security light, and you can't see my finger pointing at it very good, but right there. So that security light, when you turn the key on, is supposed to come on and then go off. And when it comes on and stays on, that's telling you that some of the anti-theft system in the vehicle is working and keeping the thing from running. So I don't know, this doesn't exactly match the symptoms that everybody was describing for that, but the light's staying on, which is making me think that it's a pretty good chance we've got a problem in this key system here. So I'm going to take it back out and replace it with this brand new one that we've got and just see what that does, since it's in better shape anyway. And one of the things that I've been watching that you can do, so this orange wire goes down through the steering column and attaches under the dash here to clip. And one of the things you can do with your car, if you've got that security light coming on and it's giving you problems, there's lots of YouTube videos on there about cutting this wire and soldering in a resistor, an electronic resistor, into the wire and plugging it back in there, and doing that to replace the chip that's in your key, which is what's really causing this problem. And that seemed like a pretty slick little deal to me. It's really inexpensive to do, and the parts are easy to find. So if you're having that problem, if your security light's staying on and you don't want to spend the money to go get an entire new key, get on YouTube and watch several of those videos. The one that seemed the most authoritative to me, most of the guys were trying to match the resistance of this little pellet chip, they call it. It's a resistor that's built into the key. They're trying to match that with a resistor put in line here. And one of the guys said something that I believe is correct. So when I plug this in, the resistance in this and the resistance in this key are not going to match what the computer in the car is expecting. And so what you have to do is put it in and go through a reload or relearning cycle. And that consists of turning your key on and leaving it on for 10 minutes, and then shutting it off for 5 seconds, and then trying to start it. And what that does is give the computer time to learn the new resistor factor in your new key switch. So one of the guys that was replacing a chip said, rather than trying to match the specific resistance here, he said just get a 2200 ohm resistor and put it in line here, and then go through that same relearn process. Turn your key on for 5 or 10 minutes, let it sit, then shut it off for 5 seconds and restart it. And I think what that did was just allowed the computer to relearn that 22 ohm resistor instead of the new resistor in the key. So I can't be a total authority on that, but I believe that rather than going through the trouble of testing your chip and your key, you can do that. Is just put a 2200 ohm resistor in here and then let the car relearn that process. Any way you do it, I think those resistors are relatively cheap. Sounded like maybe less than $5, plus the time and effort to replace it. And that connection supposedly is right down here above the brake pedal, underneath this plastic piece here that you would have to pull off. And we're going to do that anyway in order to change this lock cylinder out. So that's where we're going to go. What I'm going to do is start through this process. If you want a really detailed video, it might be better to watch two or three of them on YouTube, because I'm going to show you what I'm doing, shut it off, do the process, and then go back and do some of the others. But anyway, to start with, we're going to pull the airbag out, which means that back here behind There's 4, I think, Torx head screws, 2 on each side. We're going to pull those out. Get the airbag pulled out. There's a yellow wire with electrical connector in there. We'll disconnect that, and that will allow us to get the airbag out, and then I'll kind of show you the next step or 2 down through there when I get to that point. Okay, there we have the airbag out, laying here on my lap. They're really quite simple, nothing to be afraid of. I've taken dozens of these things out before, never had a problem with one. Next thing we have to do, there's a wire right here, that's your horn wires, and you have to push it in and turn it a little bit to the left and pull it out. So you get that sort of a thing there, and that will take it loose so that the steering wheel can come off. And so then the next thing we're going to have to do is loosen this big nut up, and then put a steering wheel puller in here that will pull the steering wheel off. Then we'll take the nut off, and then the steering wheel will come off, and that'll let us get back into some of the mechanisms in behind. So I'll show you that in a minute here when I get it off. Okay, now we've got the steering wheel off, and this piece right here is called a clock spring. I have no clue why they call it that, but it's related to the airbag and the horn and things like that. And so what you have to do to get it off is right down in here. You're not going to see it real well in the video if that thing will focus. There is a little snap ring, and it has 2 holes in it that you pull apart to, where are we here? Yeah, you pull apart to be able to expand that ring and get it off there. And you really need something called snap ring pliers. And I'm going to attempt to do this. Hey, I did it right there, one-handed. Didn't even think I could do that. Alright, so I have the ring off. Let's see, now I can see that ring there. See how I've got it in those holes. These pliers are really cool for taking care of that. You can get it with a screwdriver and things, but it's a real pain. It's worth it to go buy the pair of pliers. Alright, and now this whole unit should pull out of there. And it's fighting me, so I'm going to shut the video off and take you to the next step. Okay, there we got it off, and it hangs by a yellow wire there that doesn't need to come undone, so we'll just leave it hanging there. But I had to get my screwdriver back behind the thing down in here and really gently pry up until I could get my screwdriver back down along the bottom and push it up there. Alright, our next thing we have to do here, there's a little wavy spring washer down in there. It's got to come off. Right there. Not going to get it to focus, I'm sure. But anyway, that'll come off. Put it here with my parts. And then we have another snap ring sort of a situation. So this black thing here has to be pressed down in because it's come up against another snap ring that goes around the shaft here, and it's come up against it and holding it down in place. And so we've got to get either, I know there's a tool that you're supposed to get for it, and I may have to go rent this tool, but that will push that down so that I can then get in there and get that next little snap ring out. And this snap ring is different from the last one. It doesn't have the 2 holes to get into. It just has a split in the end that you have to get between and spread it out and pull it back off. So I'm gonna move on to that step. I ended up having right there to go rent the tool to pull that little black plate off. That's called a lock plate. And what you have to get at AutoZone is called a lock plate puller, I believe. And anyway, they have it. It's relatively inexpensive, and they give your money back as soon as you take the tool back to them. But yeah, I don't think you can get that clip out of there by compressing it by hand. It's got that spring behind it's too strong. So just throw that in here. Okay, now we've got that clip off of there, which allowed us to pull this black plate up and off, and that white piece actually came separate, but they kind of come off together. There's a big old spring down in here that could come off, but it doesn't need to, I don't think, for what we're doing, so we're going to leave it on there for right now. And Next thing we're going to do is get all the turn signal switch mechanism out. So there's 3 screws. There's one down in there, one up in here, and one down in there that we have to take out. And I think that will allow all of that mechanism to come loose in there. So that's where we're going next. Okay, I just realized that there was another problem that I had left out there. So on the little white piece of there we go, the turn signal switch there, on the left hand side of it, there's a little black screw holding a little black piece of metal in. You got to take that out too, and take the little piece of metal out in order to get that whole turn signal switch out of there. So I wanted to throw that in right here. Oh yeah, also attached to that is our hazard light button down here, and there's a screw in the end of it. We've got to unscrew and the button will come off, and that will it's also attached to this turn signal mechanism in there. Now you can see that I've got the turn signal mechanism pulled out of there and kind of laid over to the side. I don't need it clear out. The wires run down the column, and you kind of got to pull them back towards you to get it up to that point. The next thing that's got to come out, and I've already pulled it out, it's just sitting in place, but get a hold of this little, can I get it in the picture there? Where are we? Little white deal down there that has the 2 copper tangs off of it. I'm going to grab that with a pair of pliers and pull straight out on it very gently. Right there. I've got a hold of it, if you can see it, and pull that out of there. And that will be the next to the last part that I've got to do in here. The next thing I'm going to be after is that little Torx head screw right there. I'll take that loose, and that will allow the tumbler and everything to come out. So that's what I'm after, and then I've got to go down below, down here, take this panel off so that I can get that orange pigtail pulled loose from down below. So those are the things I'm going to be after next. I'll get that tumbler out to where we can see it. Actually, there is a little retainer right there, plastic deal that's stuffed in a hole. You got to pull out like that to get it loose. Let's see if I can get it there. Yeah, so that had to come out of the hole that it was shoved in. So I can do that right there. Now grab that Torx screw out of there, and we'll show you what it looks like. Okay, this is getting a little longer than I want to put all in one video, so we're going to break it up here, and this will be the end of part 1. Look around and you'll find part 2 there, and you'll be able to carry on with the rest of this installation.